The soil above her grave was still dark from last night's rain, heavy and silent, and the man stood there as if the weight of it had settled on his chest instead. Every year he told himself he would not come back, that the past should stay buried where it belonged, yet his feet always carried him here. His ex-wife's name on the stone looked colder each time, carved letters that no longer argued, no longer forgave, no longer waited. He had come to stand alone with his regret, but the sound of quiet sobbing cut through the cemetery air, and when he turned, he saw a woman crouched a few rows away, holding a small child close as if the world itself might steal the boy if she loosened her arms. In that moment, grief collided with grief, and nothing about this visit would remain the same. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even broken lives can still be mended, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Soul Tale. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reaching hearts that need them. He had not planned to notice anyone else. His visits were usually quick and guarded, a few minutes of standing, a few breaths of guilt, then leaving before memories became unbearable. He had loved her once with the certainty of youth, then lost her slowly through pride, misunderstandings, and the exhausting belief that tomorrow would always give them time to fix things. When the divorce came, it felt temporary in his mind, a pause rather than an ending. When the call came years later saying she was gone, the pause turned into a permanent silence. Since then, the grave had become the only place where he allowed himself to feel fully, because no one could interrupt a man speaking silently to stone. The crying woman unsettled him because her grief was raw, fresh, and unguarded. She looked exhausted, her clothes simple and worn, her face pale as if sleep had avoided her for weeks. The child, no older than 5, clung to her, his small fingers twisted in the fabric of her coat, his eyes wide and confused by a place meant for loss rather than childhood. The man felt an uncomfortable pull to look away, to give them privacy, but something kept him there. Perhaps it was the way the child's head rested against the woman's chest, mirroring how he once rested his head against his ex-wife's shoulder during the rare moments when life felt safe. Time slowed as he noticed details he could not ignore. The woman's gaze kept drifting toward the same grave he was standing beside, as if drawn by an invisible thread. Her sobs softened when she looked at the headstone, turning into a quiet, shaking breath. A strange realization crept into him, followed by a cold wave of disbelief. This was not coincidence. The earth beneath his feet, the name carved in stone, the woman's tears, all belonged to the same story, one he thought had ended with divorce papers and unanswered apologies. He began to understand that grief does not follow rules. It does not care about legal endings or years apart. It ties people together in ways they never expect. The woman was not a stranger to the grave. She was connected to it in a way that was painfully intimate. The child's presence made it heavier because innocence has no defense against loss. The man's chest tightened as questions formed, questions he was not sure he deserved answers to. His own suffering suddenly felt smaller, not erased, but reshaped by the knowledge that the woman he once loved had lived a life beyond him, leaving behind someone else to mourn her. Memories surfaced without permission. He remembered his ex-wife's laughter, how it filled rooms, how it softened his anger when he let it. He remembered the arguments that started small and grew sharp, fueled by exhaustion and ego. He remembered walking away, convinced that independence meant strength, unaware that he was leaving behind a fragile bond that needed care, not distance. Standing there now, watching another woman carry the weight he had abandoned, he felt the full cost of his choices. The woman eventually rose, lifting the child into her arms with a tenderness that spoke of long nights and unspoken promises. Her eyes met his briefly, and though no words passed between them, understanding moved quietly in that glance. It was not anger that lived there, but a shared recognition of loss. Two lives shaped differently by the same person, intersecting at the place where everything ended. The man felt something shift inside him, a painful but necessary crack in the walls he had built around his heart. As days passed, that moment refused to leave him. He found himself returning to the cemetery, not out of habit, but out of a strange responsibility he could not name. Sometimes the woman and child were there, sometimes they were not. When they were, he noticed small things. The way the child traced letters on the headstone with curiosity, the way the woman whispered prayers with trembling resolve. He began to help in silent ways, clearing fallen leaves, leaving fresh flowers, small gestures offered without expectation. In doing so, he felt closer to healing than he had in years. The true challenge was not the grief itself, but learning to live with it honestly. He had spent so long running from pain that facing it now felt like learning to breathe again. The presence of the woman and child forced him to confront a truth he had avoided. Love does not disappear just because relationships end. It transforms, sometimes into regret, sometimes into responsibility. He started to see that honoring the past did not mean being trapped by it. It meant choosing kindness over avoidance, connection over isolation. Slowly, his visits changed from acts of punishment to moments of reflection. He no longer stood rigid and silent, but allowed memories to come and go like passing clouds. He imagined his ex-wife at peace, free from the mistakes and hurts that defined her earthly relationships. He imagined her hoping that the people she left behind would find a way forward, even if it was painful. In that imagining, he found permission to forgive himself. Near the end of one quiet afternoon, as the sun lowered and shadows stretched across the graves, the man felt a sense of calm he had not known since before the divorce. The cemetery no longer felt like a place of endings alone, but a place where truths were faced and burdens shared, even without words. He realized that the crying woman and the child had unknowingly given him a gift, the chance to turn regret into compassion and loss into purpose. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you miss or a mistake you wish you could undo, please take a moment now to like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps these stories reach others who may need comfort tonight. And before this story ends, I invite you to comment below and share what this story made you feel, because your words may help someone else feel less alone. As the man finally walked away from the grave, he did not feel free of pain, but he felt lighter, as if grief had loosened its grip just enough to let hope breathe. Some endings, he realized, do not close doors forever.